trip down the Straits.
Well, it was at this point that my microphone decided to pack in, so here's a little bit of a narration. The Menai Straits itself, it was actually formed by ice, glaciers flowing down from Snowdonia during the last ice age some 20,000 years ago. As a result of this, the tidal effects observed along the banks of the straits can be confusing. A rising tide approaches from the southwest, causing the water in the straits to flow northeastwards as the level rises. The tide also flows around Anglesey until after a few hours it starts to flow into the straits in a southwesterly direction from Beaumaris. By this time, the tidal flow from the Carnarvon end is weakening and the tide continues to rise in a height, but the directional flow is reversed. A similar sequence is seen in reversed on a falling tide. This means that slack water between the bridges tends to occur approximately 1 hour before high tide or low tide. The Straits is also home to many rare and protected species of marine life. The Menai Straits is an unusual habitat, being sheltered from wave action yet with rapid tidal flows. It is also home to marine reefs, long sandy beaches and rocky limestone sea cliffs. Occasionally, during the summer months, you can find bioluminescent plankton in the waters around Penmon on Anglesey and along the Straits. It's one of the most magical sights you'll ever encounter, so be sure to take a late evening walk or boat drive if you are visiting in June or July. The Romans were actually afraid to invade Anglesey, and it became one of the last strongholds of the Celts and the spiritual home of the religious leaders, the Druids. If the Romans were to conquer Wales, it was crucial they take the island known as Mona in Latin. Far from being peace-loving men of gods, the Druids had a fearsome reputation for being cannibalistic sorcerers, and this terrified the legions. The Romans believed the Druids would curse any invader who set foot on the shores of Anglesey. Theoretically, it is possible to ford the straits around the Swellies at low water, especially during spring tides, when a depth may fall to less than 2 feet in depth. However, at these times, a strong current of around 4.8 knots is running, making the passage extremely difficult. Farmers from before the bridges were erected used to have to drive their cattle and livestock across here and often suffered great losses. These strong tides can carry large quantities of fish, and the construction of fish weirs on both banks and on several of the islands help make the strait an important source of fish for many countries. I believe 8 of these numerous Menai Strait fishing weirs are now scheduled actually as monuments. The Straits itself actually sits on a major fault line, active 5 million years ago, and it's still the most seismically active place in Wales. There is also the beautiful and mysterious St. Tysilio Church on the Menai Straits. This beautiful medieval church has no electricity, so that meant all sermons were carried out by candlelight. Arguably one of the most idyllic positioned churches in the UK, St. Tysilio occupies a tiny island in the middle of the Menai Straits. It's a bit of a mystery, as there's no surviving record of who actually founded the church or why. The island can be reached by a causeway at low tide, and it's a perfect place to sit and watch boats sailing by beneath the shadow of the bridges. St. Tysilio also forms part of the infamous Plan for PG, or the infamous long name railway. It forms part of the word San Tysilio Gawk, or so I believe anyway. Now, as you can probably tell, I am actually English, but I did move to Anglesey in the very late 70s, and actually went all the way through school in Anglesey. So I Can speak a bit of Welsh, not very well, and it does have an English accent, but here we go, here's my version of the big long word. Llanfair Pwllgwyngyll Godwerus Rhwng Robris Tysilio Gawk. As I say, it was only an attempt, and to be honest, I haven't said that word for a lot of years. Now, as you can see, we are just about to come up to the fantastic Britannia Bridge. This bridge opened in 1850. The Britannia Bridge was built as a rail bridge connecting Anglesey to the mainland. The bridge is 461 metres long and 40 metres tall. Carries North Wales coastline connecting Holyhead to Crewe. Between 1970 and 1972, the bridge underwent a redesign in order to accommodate what would later become the A55, a dual carriageway connecting Chester to Holyhead. The bridge is a Grade 2 listed and is the most common crossing point out of the two bridges. There are actually 4 magnificent limestone lions guarding the entrance to the Britannia Bridge. Each lion weighs around 8 tonnes and is about 25 foot long. These magnificent feline sculptures were created in 1848 by the Victorian sculptor John Thomas, most famous for his work in Parliament and Buckingham Palace. They are actually difficult to spot unless you are crossing the bridge by train or you're on a boat. Currently, there was a campaign underway to move the lions so that everyone else can enjoy them as well. It really doesn't matter how many times you pass under these bridges, it's still amazing. The view is just unbelievable. The sheer size of it is just fascinating, and there's always something different to see. The tidal run around this rock is unbelievable as well. One side of the rock is 4 foot deeper than the other. Having now passed under the Britannia Bridge and we are heading towards the Menai Suspension Bridge, we have entered the body of water known as the Swellies. As you can see, it is bubbling, but we'll talk more about that later. What I want to talk about now is what you can see in the distance there, and it's Inisgorad Gawk. Now, Inisgorad Gawk, or in English, it basically means the Red Weir Island. It's a small privately owned island in the Menai Straits, and its history spans back centuries. It's well known for its strategically placed fishing weirs and its unique location between the Menai Suspension Bridge and Britannia Bridge. Now, these fishing weirs, I believe, originate from around the 13th century, and they were recently rebuilt. They were rebuilt in the 19th century, and you can still see them visible today. Now, we talked earlier about St. Tysilio featuring in the big Llanfair PG railway name. Now, it's said that the Gawk actually comes from this island. What a fantastic view, and looked at by millions of tourists every day. Right, let's get back to the Swellies. This is a treacherous, rock-filled stretch of the Menai Strait that lies between the two bridges. Its powerful currents and whirlpools are often feared by navigation and boats, and a lot of people only even consider going up through the Swellies at slack water at high tide. The strong tidal currents and in fact immense currents in the Swellies are caused by the two ends of the strait experiencing different tides at different times. Water flows around Anglesey at different speeds, creating surges and powerful flows that can reach up to 8 knots in the Swellies. The Swellies has whirlpools and surges and conflicting tidal flows all around high and sticking out rocks and other features of the seabed. These seabed characteristics and rocky outcrops, many of which are close to the surface, help cause the water's turbulence. These include the infamous Cribbin Rock, which is submerged at high tide, and of course Swelly Rock. Now, even though I've owned a boat and lived on Anglesey for many years, I was still always fearful of bringing a boat into the Swellies. But to be honest, with the aid of the modern navionics or sea maps, you can navigate it quite well. It's still treacherous, and I wouldn't like to do it without a reliable engine, because when you actually cut your motor and drift, you go at some speed. And look at the power of this water. All different directions, whirlpools, side currents. You switch off your engine and your boat can turn around 360. We actually drifted round Inisgorad Gawk, completely missing it. It's absolutely fantastic place, but it needs respect. Now, as you leave the Swellies, you come up to the fantastic Menai Suspension Bridge. This was designed by Thomas Telford and was completed in 1826. Thomas Telford was commissioned to improve the route to Holyhead, the main port for ferries to Dublin. He proposed a suspension bridge to provide wide span over to the turbulent Menai Straits, high enough to allow tall sailing ships to pass underneath. Well, I hope you have enjoyed your trip down the Menai Straits. We were actually here doing a bass fishing competition because this place is full of them. But you've got to use live bait, and you've got to anchor off in the shallows and cast your live bait out. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Hopefully back around Anglesey, but if not, it may well be the Fylde coast. Goodbye for now.